The iron gate loomed over the path, a towering barrier of rusted metal and thick, knotted vines. Rosie stood rooted to the spot, her breath hitching as she looked up. The vines were so dense they seemed to be holding the gate shut by force alone. She reached into her pocket, her fingers brushing against the cold, hard edges of the golden key. She pulled it out. The metal caught the dim light, casting long shadows across the gravel at her feet. Behind her, Benny shifted, his weight pressing into the soft earth, but he made no sound. The air here was heavy, still, and charged with an unseen energy that made the fine hairs on her arms stand up. She stepped closer to the lock, the scent of damp moss and ancient earth filling her nose. She traced the keyhole with her thumb, feeling the grit of long-forgotten years. She held the key tight, her knuckles white, and pressed it against the iron. The metal beneath her hand felt unnervingly cold. She took a steadying breath, forced her pulse to slow, and aligned the teeth of the key with the weighting mechanism. Everything depended on this single turn. The key slid home with a satisfying grind of metal against metal. Rosie twisted her wrist, feeling the tumbler shift deep inside the mechanism. With a soft, echoing click, the lock disengaged. She pushed. The heavy iron groaned, the hinges protesting against years of neglect as the gate swung inward. A sudden gust of warm air rushed out to meet them, smelling of nectar and sunlight. Rosie stepped forward, her boots sinking into the rich, soft soil on the other side. Benny hopped past her, his ears twitching as he took in the sudden explosion of color. The valley stretched out before them, a tapestry of vibrant greens and pulsating wildflowers that seemed to sway even without a breeze. Everything was brighter here, as if the light itself had a different quality. Rosie looked back at the rusted gate, then forward into the expanse, feeling the ground beneath her feet vibrate with a gentle, rhythmic pulse. She took a deep breath, letting the sweet air fill her lungs, and walked further into the meadow. The path ahead was clear, winding through tall grasses that brushed against her knees, inviting them deeper into the heart of the valley. Every step felt like walking into a dream that had only just begun to wake up. The meadow was not merely a field, it was a canvas brought to life. Rosie stood still as the flowers surrounding her began to hum. It was a low, melodic vibration that resonated in her chest, a soft tune composed of wind and petal. Beside her, Benny froze, his nose twitching as a cluster of butterflies took flight. Their wings were broad and vibrant, streaked with colors that looked like wet paint on a palette. They zipped through the air, leaving faint, shimmering trails that hung in the sunlight for a heartbeat before vanishing. Rosie walked slowly, careful not to crush the glowing stems beneath her feet. She reached out to touch a tall, violet bloom, and as her finger brushed the tip, the flower bowed and hummed a higher, sharper note. The entire meadow seemed to respond to their presence, shifting its hue from emerald to a deeper, richer jade. It was like walking through a living painting where every brushstroke breathed. She drifted forward, eyes wide, following the erratic, beautiful flight of the butterflies. The air grew thicker with the scent of honey and crushed mint. Every direction offered a new vista of impossible color, pulling them deeper into the heart of the valley, further away from the safety of the iron gate, and deeper into the dream. The melodic hum of the flowers began to fade as a new sensation took hold. A sharp, rhythmic pulsing started against Rosie's back, rhythmic and insistent. She swung the bag around, fumbling with the strap, and unzipped the main compartment. Inside, the crystal leaf was no longer dormant. It erupted with a brilliant, steady light that bleached the color from her palms. The glow was intense, casting long, dancing shadows across the grass. Rosie gasped as the light shifted, projecting a clear, shimmering beam that cut through the haze of the meadow. It pointed directly toward a massive oak tree standing alone in the center of the clearing. The tree dominated the landscape, its gnarled branches reaching out like heavy, dark fingers against the vibrant sky. A sudden change in the wind whipped the grass around their ankles, pulling them toward the trunk. Benny stopped his aimless hopping and stood on his hind legs, ears pointed toward the ancient wood. The urgency was palpable now. The meadow seemed to hold its breath, waiting for them to move. Rosie gripped the strap of her bag and took the first step, her hesitation replaced by a singular, driving focus. The light from the leaf pulsed faster, a steady heartbeat urging them toward the heart of the valley. The oak tree loomed over them, its trunk wide enough to span a dozen paces. Rosie approached the rough, gray bark, her fingers tracing deep ridges that felt warm to the touch, as if the wood contained a living pulse. She stopped before a small, dark hollow nestled near the roots. The crystal leaf in her hand felt heavy, vibrating with a frantic, electric energy. She carefully tucked the leaf into the aperture, then pulled the silver acorn from her pocket. It was cold, dense, and unnervingly smooth compared to the bark. She placed the acorn snugly beside the leaf. For a long second, nothing happened. Benny tilted his head, his whiskers twitching in the sudden, absolute silence. Then, a low vibration began. It started deep beneath their feet, a rhythmic thrumming that grew steadily in intensity. The soil beneath Rosie's boots shifted, fine dust rising into the air as the earth itself seemed to inhale. The rhythm accelerated, turning from a rumble into a steady, powerful beat that shook the fallen branches around them. The ground was no longer solid. It felt like a living thing, tense and ready to break open. Rosie stepped back, her hands clenched, as the air grew heavy with the smell of turned earth and ancient secrets. The rumbling beneath their feet became a sharp, tearing sound. Grass and roots snapped as the turf was forced upward from below. Rosie scrambled backward, her heels digging into the dirt to maintain balance. With a sudden, explosive rustle, a rectangular section of the meadow floor flipped open. A thick slab of dark, polished wood rose from the hole, held in place by rusted iron hinges that groaned under the strain. Dust and loose soil tumbled into the newly formed gap, settling into the dark space below. Rosie stepped forward again, her breath hitching in her throat. The trapdoor lay fully exposed, a stark, unnatural square carved into the vibrant green of the meadow. A heavy iron latch, cold and pitted with age, sat fixed to the center of the wood. She hesitated, her hand hovering just inches above the metal. The air around the opening felt different, cooler and filled with a faint, metallic scent. Benny scurried to her side, his nose twitching as he watched the latch. Rosie braced her feet, gripped the iron ring, and pulled. The wood gave way with a heavy, satisfying thud, revealing the narrow, dark passage that led deep into the earth. She looked down, her heart hammering against her ribs, ready to face the secret the valley had kept for centuries. Rosie leaned over the edge of the opening. At first, the space below was absolute darkness, a void hidden away from the sun. She squinted, waiting for her eyes to adjust to the dimness. Then, a pulse of light bloomed from the depths. It was not a steady glow, but a rhythmic shifting of hues, cycling from deep indigo to vibrant crimson and bright electric lime. Rosie reached down into the hollow and lifted the object resting on the soil. It was a woven basket made of thin, flexible willow branches, light enough to balance on one palm. Within the basket lay a mound of small, round berries. As she watched, the fruit rippled with color, the skin of each berry changing shade every second. The scent rose to meet her, sharp, sweet, and reminiscent of crushed nectar. Benny scurried over, his nose pressed against the basket's rim. He let out a sharp, high-pitched chirp and leaped into the air, spinning in a quick circle before landing back on his haunches. The berries pulsed in time with the light from the trapdoor, casting swirling, multicolored reflections against the underside of the wooden lid. Rosie turned the basket, watching the colors bleed into one another. The discovery was complete. The secret of the valley sat in her hands, shifting and alive. Rosie picked up a single berry. It felt cool and pulsed with a faint warmth against her fingertips. She brought it to her mouth and bit down. The skin gave way with a sharp, crisp snap, releasing a rush of concentrated sweetness that coated her tongue. The moment she swallowed, the air around her fractured. A fine golden dust erupted from the ground, swirling upward in thick, shimmering columns that blinded her for a heartbeat. She threw her hands up to cover her face, squinting through the brilliant, metallic haze. Around her, the meadow began to shift. The massive oak trees groaned as their heavy branches lowered, sweeping toward the earth in a rhythmic, sweeping motion. It was as if the entire forest were kneeling in her presence. The golden dust settled onto the leaves, turning the green canopy into a sea of molten light. Every blade of grass stood upright, vibrating with a low, humming frequency that traveled through the soles of her feet. Rosie stood frozen as the world rearranged itself around her. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and blooming flowers. She looked up, watching the boughs sway in perfect, synchronized arcs, creating a tunnel of shimmering gold that stretched toward the horizon. The golden dust drifted down like slow, heavy snow, coating the grass in a thin layer of glitter. Rosie lowered her hands, her vision clearing to reveal the meadow transformed. She sat down on the soft, mossy earth. The ground felt warm, buzzing with the lingering energy of the forest. Benny hopped onto her lap, his ears twitching as he watched the perimeter of the clearing. From behind the thick trunks, small shapes began to emerge. They were creatures made of twigs and light, moving with cautious curiosity toward the basket. Rosie did not pull away. She reached into the woven container and held out a handful of the glowing berries. A small fox-like creature with leaves for ears crept forward, sniffed the fruit, and took it gently from her palm. Another followed, then another. They gathered in a circle around her, their movements synchronized and calm. Rosie watched them eat, the pulsing light of the berries reflecting in their eyes. She looked at Benny, then at the small group huddled close. The tension of the journey vanished, replaced by a steady, quiet rhythm of shared presence. She realized then that the magic was not in the hollow tree or the hidden trapdoor. It was here, in the simple act of sitting together in the silence. She reached out, resting a hand on Benny, and felt the heartbeat of the valley steadying beneath her touch. The berries were gone, leaving only a faint, sweet trail of nectar on their paws. Rosie leaned back against the roots of the oak tree, her breathing matching the slow, rhythmic pulse of the meadow. Above, the sky began its final transformation. The blue bled away, replaced by deep, bruised violets and streaks of molten gold that caught the edges of the leaves. The light slanted long and low across the clearing, turning every blade of grass into a needle of fire. Benny settled against her side, his breathing steady and deep. Rosie watched the horizon. She looked past the giant oak, past the spot where the trapdoor lay closed and silent, all the way to the distant iron gate. The vines that covered it now shimmered in the twilight, no longer a barrier, but a threshold. A quiet certainty settled over her. This moment was complete, yet it was merely a bridge to what lay beyond. She pressed her palms into the cool earth one last time, feeling the ground settle into rest. The valley held its breath, waiting for the coming stars. Rosie stood up, brushing the dirt from her palms, and turned her gaze toward the path ahead. The gate stood ready in the fading light. She knew the next adventure was already waiting, just a few steps away, hidden in the silence of the dark.